We can't hear you on this end. We can't hear you.
I'm here. I'm
All
here.
right.
I'm finally live, LIVE. But
Yes.
nevertheless, I'm getting ready to bring you the lady that does more work than the
Uh,
president that's in office. Does more work than the one was out of office. But I'm talking about that community activist. She's everywhere and concerned about the future generation. I'm talking about the one and only community activist, Miss Georgia Allen.
Good afternoon. Hello, Henderson. How are you doing today?
Yes.
Doing good?
Yes.
All righty now. Okay. We're going to get started. I am Georgia Allen with GA for Justice, coming to you every single week at 12 o'clock noon on WVDM. Today's topic is vote. It's always vote. It's election season. Early voting just started for the primary, so it's always voting season here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So just take a look at your calendar, and I guarantee you they're going to tell you it's time to vote. If it's a primary, it's a special election, it's a general election, it's somebody's election. So right now, it is the primary. So if you haven't gone to the polls and vote, you can vote all week long, Monday through Friday, down at the City Hall at building number 14. Today's actual topic, because vote is the topic every single week, silently watching. Silently watching. You say, why you got that title? There's so many people, they're silent. They're not really doing anything, but they're still watching everything that goes on. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Our KWANZAA principle is UJIMA, collective work and responsibility. So those of you who are silently watching, there is some work and there's some responsibility that falls on your shoulders, as well as all of us who are out here fighting on behalf of our community, our families, and on behalf of justice. And what does collective work and responsibility means? It means to build and maintain our community together and make our communities what? Problems. What? Our problems. And what? And to solve them together. So that means if you're silently watching, you haven't decided yet that these things that are going on right here in your backyard, right here on your school board, right here on your city council, you've decided that those are not your problems. But I beg to differ. I beg to differ. We all are part of those problems. They affect us in one way, shape, or form. And so, again, today's KWANZAA principle is UJIMA, collective work and responsibility to build and maintain our community together, not separately, not individually, but together, and make our communities problems, our problems, and to do what? To solve them together. Yeah. Our faith message today is Psalm 39:2. So I remain silent, utterly silent, not even saying anything good, but my anguish increased. So, folks, if you are silent, you are still going to have some anguish. You're going to still have some troubles in your spirit. To remain utterly silent, to do nothing, to say nothing, to not speak out is still anguish in your spirit. So today, as we get going, I do my usual opening. Yes, it's Thursday. And yes, I am Georgia F. Allen with GA for Just Is. As always, I want to thank Mr. Henderson Vaughn, aka Captain 85, aka the Dream Maker, on none other than WVDM. And he's been generous to open up the airwaves to bring our listening audience a conversation, a simple conversation for information. And that's important because there's a lot of stuff that's taking place, not just locally, but statewide and nationally. And those things affect us in our households. And so we want to bring you a simple conversation for information. Just try to provide you a little bit of knowledge that you can use wherever you may go. The other thing is we have a conversation for correction, because guess what? Nobody is perfect and we all make mistakes. And so every now and again, we got to come back and say, you know what? We messed up on that. And you know what? I don't have a problem doing that. I don't have a problem being open and honest about the mistakes that I make, because since I already know I'm imperfect, we can look to the fact that we're all going to make mistakes, and that's okay. As long as you're willing to acknowledge them, as long as you're willing to hold yourself accountable for them, and as long as you're willing to do what? Correct them. Correction. And then we have a conversation for transformation. And you say, well, why transformation? Because we cannot continue to stay in the same place forever. There's got to be some transformational things going on in our homes, our community, our churches, in our schoolhouses. We're going to have some transformation going on in these places. But we're also going to have some transformation going on in our school board houses, in our city council houses or chambers. We call them chambers, we call them houses. So keep that in mind as we go through this conversation today, because again, some of you guys are out there just silently watching, and y'all have your little conversations in the back room somewhere, but you come out front. You don't stand with those who are standing with you and on your behalf. You don't stand. You silently watch in the background somewhere. So I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit today. As always, I like to do the disclaimer. Many of you are well aware that I have worked in the civil rights arena, and I've been a community activist for decades. And those decades keep adding on. Therefore, the various positions that I may take are mine and mine alone. I do not speak on behalf of any groups or organizations. This is how Georgia feels. This is what Georgia is looking at. Some of these things are some things that Georgia is concerned about. I'm concerned about our young people. I'm concerned about what's going on behind those behind the classroom doors. I'm concerned about what's going on the baseball field and the football field. I'm concerned about what's going on the track fields and with the track teams. I'm concerned about those various things that's taking place throughout our community. I'm concerned about the various schools that sometimes have children that misbehave, and we only want to focus on those young people that we feel, well, they're just not making the grade. They're just not doing what they should do. But they don't tell you the other side of the story, that in many instances, they may have been bullied. In many instances, they have been antagonized, not just by other students. The conversation that comes out of the mouth of the instructors that's standing in front of the class sometimes can be antagonistic, which causes young people to react in a certain way. And maybe that's not necessarily the best way, but that's how they're feeling when these conversations are being held in our classrooms. So for those of you who are out there, and this may have happened to you, a family member, stop silently watching this stuff take place. Stop. If you have students in school here in the city of Virginia Beach or in schools anywhere else in any city throughout the country, stop silently watching what's going on and get engaged. Get involved. And if you're afraid to go by yourself, get a family member or a friend to go along with you. You want to share something, Henderson?
Well, no, I was just scratching my nose, but hey, look, I could say something. But most of the time with me, I go by myself because I move, they say if you want to do something, go by yourself. if you want to go with a group. But when you go by yourself, you have time. With me, when I'm working in the community or promoting anything, I have time to conversate with the person to get their attention. And if they got questions, when I go with a group of people are like, oh, well, I'm busy, so it's you. Sometimes you can go to places with other people, but with me for me personally, when I go in the grocery store, I'm going to stop and talk for about 10 or 15 minutes, to different people. So I can engage in like, I'll go to BJ's or go to the Price Club. I can engage. Wait a minute. Did you hear about this meeting that's coming up? And all I do is get their attention, and I got enough attention to give you the flyer now.
Correct.
But by the time I hand that flyer to you, I done told you everything on the flyer.
And see, each person has a way that things work best for them.
Right.
And so what I'm hearing you say is you can operate and make things happen as an individual, while other people may be very uncomfortable doing that. So we want them to have alternatives. Right. We know that one size does not fit all. Yeah. And so therefore, for those who may be a little uncomfortable going places on their own, especially when it comes down to, okay, I'm going to go down to city council and I'm going to speak before city council, but I've never done this before. Then you might want to bring a posse with you, a support system, because each person can do things a little differently. But the fact that you're willing to get up off of your seat, get up off the and move forward. Yeah. The fact that you're willing to do that speaks volumes to those who are there and listening, those who are not there and may hear about it later and may listen later. That speaks volumes. You got something else you want to share?
Well, I just wanted to ask you why you did mention it about something about registering, or what is that all about this week? So,
Correct.
So
okay, let's talk about that for a second. Voting, I'm always talking about voting. Right now, the primary is going on. So in most cities, there are two parties. Some places, have a strong libertarian party, but in our city, we have two parties, a Democrat party and a Republican party. There are places in the city where there's competitive races. There are places in the city where there are what they call the primary. That means people within the same party are running against each other. And therefore, that party has to determine who is going to be the candidate at the top of that ticket. So in our city, in the city of Virginia Beach, in the Republican Party, they have a person in the 97th district who has competition. So those two people will be running against each other, and they got to figure out who's going to be the winner of that particular primary. And once that person is determined, they now become the candidate for the 97th district for the Republican Party. Currently, they don't have any competition for their governor's race, for their attorney general's race, and for their lieutenant governor's race. In the Democratic Party, however, they have competition in the lieutenant governor's race. So there's about 6 candidates in that race, and they have to garner the majority of the votes in order for them to be established as the lieutenant governor's candidate for the Democratic Party. In the attorney general race for the Democrats, they have 2 persons running to secure the nomination. It's really called a nomination, to secure the nomination for the attorney general slot. So they have 2 people running, and the one that garners the most vote will then become the nominee for the Democratic Party. So when you walk into the in our case is building number 14, which is the voters registrar's office, you go in and they will ask you, do you want a Democratic primary ballot or do you want a Republican primary ballot? and you have to choose. And once you make your choice, that is going to determine the races that are on that ballot. And once you do that, you go ahead and vote. And then on the 17th of the month of June, that is really the actual primary election day. But between now and June 17th, you'll be able to go Monday through Friday to the registrar's office and vote. So we want as many people to come out and vote early as possible. And then on the 17th, those of you who did not vote early, you're going to need to vote that day because that's a drop dead date. And polls will be open around the city. I don't know how many polls are open for the primary. I don't know if it's the whole entire city right now or if they're going to put them in different communities or what have you. But anyway, prepare yourself. I would recommend, if at all possible, vote early. It's better if you vote early, and then tell other people to vote early, because what they're counting on is people in the habit of staying at home and not voting. But if you get in the habit of voting all the time, you won't miss an election cycle. You'll be there anytime. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah. So can you repeat that again? For the Democrats, they go in a different building to register?
They both go in the same building, but when they get up to the counter, at building number 14, everybody goes to building number 14. That is the only place that we can vote right now in our city. And throughout the state, you go to your registrar's office. That's where you can vote right now.
Okay.
And whatever city you live in, you go to the voter's registrar's office. You go up to the counter. They ask you for your identification. I don't know about any of you, but I got a brand new voter registrar's card because they changed where my precinct is this time around. And so whenever they do that, they notify you and send you out a brand new voter registry, a new card showing that you're a registered voter, what your name is, what precinct you're going to vote in, and where the location is. In my case, it's now Old Donation. Okay. And before, it was at Bayside 6th grade. And so you want to pay attention when you get mail from Department of Voter, I think it's Department of Elections. That's what it is. When you get information from the Department of Elections, don't take that and just toss it aside. Well, I know where I'm going to vote. I always vote at the same place every time. Open it, because there could be a change, and you need to know when those changes take place so that you can make sure you go to the right location.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great questions, because I'm sure some people were out there like, do I go to the same building? Do I go to a different building? And so we always want to keep people informed. And so I really appreciate that question that you asked. Okay. So, we hear a statement that people tend to make a lot. And I guess I feel like this personally right about now. We are at a crossroads. And if ever I felt like I was at a crossroads, it's been over these last few months. Not just 1 month, not just January, not just February, March, or April. I feel like this year has been so busy, and there's been so many challenges here in my city alone. I really, truly feel like I'm at a crossroads. And we all get there sometimes. Okay. It could be a crossroads in your life, in politics, in the community, in your family, or just something in general that you feel like you're struggling. Okay. All of these things are coming together in so many different ways, and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So you may ask yourself, how does it feel to be at a crossroads? For me, it feels a little overwhelming, because we're over here fighting the city with regards to the election system. We're over here fighting with the school board regarding DEI. We are out in the community trying to help people understand how important it is to get involved and get engaged. We're in our particular organizations, and the organizations tend to be on different paths. There's a mission that the organization has, but there may be missions that individuals have. And so you feel like you're at a crossroads with all of these things coming together and splitting off. And so I always like to say, well, what are you going to do? Or what do you do when you get to that crossroad? Do you sit down and cry your milk? What do you do when you get to that crossroad? Did you pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, you know, this is a little challenging for me? Or do you sit back? Do you recall because you don't feel that you can engage anymore? You don't feel that you can fight anymore. You feel that the situation is so horrible and the actions of the policymakers are so horrible that you begin to recoil. And I want to submit to you, now is not the time to recoil. Now is the time to go and get a second win. Now is the time to say, look, I cannot stand by and silently watch this community go under because I did nothing. I can't do it. And yes, it's tough. And so I want to encourage you, if you're out there and you feel like you're at this crossroad, you've been watching the news, you've been seeing what's taking place, you see all of these different conversations going on, you see people go before city council and you expect people that you put in office to represent your interests. And it seems like they don't really care. And then they justify their behavior with messaging that is almost obscene. It's really close to being obscene that they come up with these messaging. So I'm going to ask those of you who are listening today, wherever you may be, whatever your city looks like right about now, whatever is going on, wherever you are, I need you to step up and fight back. I need you to be willing to pick up the phone and call your friends, your neighbors, and say, now is not the time to recoil. The most important elections you have are your local elections, because that pretty much governs everything day by day in your life. It governs everything from how planning is done and what zoning take place. All of that is being done on a local level. It's not done on a national level. It is done on the local level. Changes in zoning, the decisions that they make with regards to planning, those are all things that take place on a local level. So don't get so fired up about what the governor is doing and what the guy in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is doing. Those things are important. They're very important. But what is going on in your day-to-day life is your local government. All politics is local. Keep that in mind. All politics is local. And so one of the scriptures that came to me, because I was like, you know what? Virginia Beach has been a thorn in my side. And so I had to go back to scripture. And I went to scripture to 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. And this is how I feel. We are hard pressed on every side. He didn't say on one side. He said we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. That means you might knock me down, But because I am not destroyed, I can get up again and again and again and again and again. And I can fight you again and again and again. And so, I will not sit back silently and watch chaos and confusion take place in my city and not step up and say something about it. I will not do that. And I think sometimes people say, well, it's tiring, it's hard, it's this, it's that. Every day we get up is hard. Every single day that we get up is hard because we don't know what's out there. We don't know what's going to happen next. We have no idea. So we got to fight even in the midst of our trials and tribulations. We have to fight. We have to fight when people are pushing back against the things that we know in our hearts of hearts is the right thing to do. We have to still fight until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. We have to fight. Okay. That brings me to our announcements, our acknowledgments, and our commemorations. And as I shared with you, first week in May, I will probably announce this every single week that I come on as a reminder. Malcolm X's birthday is May 19th. And again, I'm going to talk about Malcolm X or acknowledge him every single time that I'm on the air. And I do that because a lot of times we have a tendency to only think about certain people, or we're programmed to put one person in a higher esteem than another because there are folks who don't want to treat Malcolm with the same respect as the guy on the back wall, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Well, guess what? Both deserve a tremendous amount of respect. The other birthday this month, Minister Louis Farrakhan. Birthday is May 11th. Stevie Wonder, his birthday is May 13th. And then there's somebody that maybe you haven't heard of. Her name is Matilda Arabella Evans, born May 13, 1872. And Mrs. Evans was the first African-American woman doctor in the state of South Carolina. First. And you think back and you know what we've gone through. But think about somebody back in 1872 getting a degree in medical science. 1872. So when someone tells us we can't do something, or when someone tells us, we don't want DEI, it's got to be on merit. She got her medical license in she passed away in 1872. No, look, I didn't do it right. Let me look at it again. She was born in 1872, which means she had a license. She had a license somewhere after 1872. So I do apologize. See, I told you I believe in corrections. I didn't put it on the sheet that I typed up. Miss Matilda Arabella Evans was born May 13, 1872, and she went on to become the first African-American woman doctor in the Palmetto state of South Carolina. Also, Brown v. Board of Education on May 17th, that law was passed. And then the other announcement that I have is Virginia Beach NAACP will hold its general membership meeting on Monday, May the 12th, at the Hive, right here in the city of Virginia Beach, on the corner of Independence Boulevard and Columbus Street. So if you're not doing anything on Monday, we want to encourage you to come out to the Hive at the corner of Independence Boulevard and Columbus Street at 7 p.m. to the Virginia Beach NAACP General Membership Meeting. And not only, if you're listening, and not only should you come out, please share this information with other people and invite them to come out as well. Because right now, we need all of our soldiers, because we're in a war. We're in a war. And then on Tuesday evening, May the 13th, the Virginia Beach School Board will hold its meeting at 6 p.m. at the school administration building. So these are upcoming events. These are birthdays, honoring people, both living and passed away. Minister Farrakhan, of course, is still here. He is on the 11th. He will turn 92 years old. Stevie Wonder was born May 13, 1950. Musician, everybody, pretty much everybody knows Stevie Wonder. Plays any number of instruments blind. And we can't even get people to read a book. And he knows how to play the drums, the harmonica. He plays the piano, the organ, the keyboard, and all of that. And we have people that don't want to read a book. So I want to encourage our people to recognize people like Matilda Arabella Evans, physician, and a person like Stevie Wonder, a musician who was able to do so much. Even blind, he was able to do a lot. And with that said, took a quick break. We're going to come on back into the rest of the show. And as I mentioned earlier, it feels like we're in a war zone because there's so much chaos going on all over the place. I mean, everywhere you turn, there's one incident, one issue after another. And so you almost feel like you got bullets firing at you from everywhere. You walk out your front door, there's one incident. You go to the store and there's another situation. You go to school board and you got a situation. You go to city council and you have another situation. And so this past Tuesday, I truly have seen and felt trouble on every leaning side. I spoke at both city council chambers and also in the school board chambers. City council chambers was pretty normal because in advance, for both of them actually, we really felt like we knew how city council would vote on the referendum for the 10-1 system. In the city of Virginia Beach, we had a lawsuit, and the federal judge ruled that Virginia Beach had an unfair election system. Ruled, said you guys are out of compliance, basically. You're basically out of order. You're doing elections year after year, and a lot of people don't have a fair opportunity to get elected to office. So we need you to change your election system. So some of us did not sit silently by while this city continued to disenfranchise voters. Some of us stood up. Some of us even filed the lawsuit. And some of us even supported those who did file the lawsuit. So keep in mind, you don't necessarily have to be on the front line, but it's a good idea to let people know how you stand and where you stand on issues. So on Tuesday night, we had an opportunity to see firsthand persons who were able to get elected with the 10-1 voting system, with an opportunity to see, as scripture says, choose this day which side you're going to be on. So we had city council members make a choice. So now it's up to the citizenry to make their choice. Did the people vote in favor of what you want, or did they vote against what you want? Now, many of us, we wanted the city council to end this long, drawn out process of fighting the federal court and say, look, we've gone through court, we filed an appeal, we've done all these things, and the court ruling stands. And so we've also asked the public for their input, gave them an opportunity to give their input, and the public too gave their input and said, we like the 10-1 voting system. And with that being said, we went back to our council members. We let them know that we thought it was a bad idea to vote to approve the referendum going on the ballot in November. But as many times before, the city council decided to do what they wanted to do versus what the public asked them to do. So again, all politics are local, and you want to keep that in mind. Politics are local. Local representatives should be representing your needs on the local level. So if you want a particular type election system, they should be willing to support you and your voice, not just the voice of someone who has placed money in their coffers for them to run for office. You should vote. They should be voting for what the masses and what the public says versus one or two people who don't like what the federal court said. So for those of you who are listening, if you live in the Commonwealth of Virginia and you live in the city of Virginia Beach, there will be a referendum on the ballot in November. And you will choose whether you want to continue the 10-1 voting system or whether or not you want a new modified voting system. So I want you to keep that in mind because I will be talking about this periodically throughout the rest of the year. And right now, based upon the information that the city received, 81% of the people that took the survey said they want the 10-1 system. So I want you to keep that number in mind. If 81% of the Virginia Beach residents that took the survey said that they wanted the 10-1 system, then I need you out there talking to your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, and say, look, I may not have taken the survey, but obviously the people that did take the survey, and they took it all over the city. So even in the places where you would think that because they're a little richer, or perhaps they have more than someone else, that they would have said something differently, but they didn't. Even in places where you would think that, oh man, we're putting the survey out and they're probably going to vote against it. That did not happen. In the 10 districts, the majority of the people in all 10 districts voted for the 10-1 system. And the reason why I want to stay with this for a minute is because even after the council got the information back, we the council members say, but they don't understand. They don't know. They don't understand. I think people in 2025 can read. I think they understand. And so we need to stop dismissing our citizenry simply because they didn't vote the way me or you or whoever as an elected official wanted them to vote. So we want to make sure that we also know everyone that voted to do a referendum after the public survey said that 81% of the people want the 10-1 system. And you want to know who these people are. We're going to put their names up. We're going to put the vote up next week at our next week show, because we're going to probably show it almost every single week from now until election day. These are the people that voted against the citizens of Virginia Beach. And we're going to say that over and over again. These are the people who voted against the citizens of Virginia Beach. And these people are supposed to represent the citizens' concerns. They're supposed to represent the people. We even had one guy who said people over politics. But when it came time for the vote, even though his district voted in favor of the 10-1 system, that's the other thing we got to pull. We got to go back and pull the survey on all 10 districts and make sure we get that out to the public over and over and over again. You can't do it one and done. You got to do it over and over again, because you cannot silently watch as persons who have been placed in position to represent our concerns, to represent our issues, and then they vote against the things that we said overwhelmingly that this is what we'd like to see. You can't sit silent. We cannot silently watch any of this. So we elected officials who we believe would vote in our best interests. However, they voted opposite of what we called them up and asked them to do, even sending them letters, making phone calls saying, hey, we need you to vote this way. They sat on the dais and voted opposite of what their constituents asked for. So this city council decided to put the referendum on the November ballot to push to change our voting system back to what it was, the system that was declared basically unconstitutional. It did not pass the smell test. It violated the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And they voted to put it on the referendum in November to try and overturn the federal government, the federal court. And they're trying to overturn what the people asked for. So we need you to go to polls and vote in November on behalf of, as I like to say, in Virginia Beach, we currently have single member districts allowing we the people to determine their own representatives. And it's simply one person, one vote versus one group of people trying to buy votes and say, okay, if you vote for this candidate, I'll give you X amount of dollars for you to vote for this candidate. And that is so that candidate will vote in the way that a special interest group might want. Maybe it's the hotels, maybe it's the restaurant owners, maybe it's the developers, maybe it's the farmers. But a farmer should not have any more power than the one person, one vote. A developer should not have more power than the one person, one vote. A hotel association should not have any more power than the one person, one vote. I want you to keep that in mind, because you cannot afford to silently watch as the members on council continue to chip away at the rights that we fought so hard for all of us to have. And like I said, I spoke at two places. I spoke at city council and I spoke at school board. And so I'm going to kind of wrap it up with my school board and the DEIA situation that's taking place here in the city of Virginia Beach. On school board, we had a vote as well. We had a gentleman present a resolution to get rid of DEIA, claiming they had to do so in order to fall within the guidelines of an executive order, when he knew that an executive order is not law. The Congress has to take that executive order and put it in the form of a law and then pass that to make it to more or less codified and make it legit. Executive orders where you do things like honor somebody. You don't really need Congress to do that because that does not cost dollars and cents. An executive order with regards to education, an executive order with regards to housing, where you're moving money around in a budget, where you're threatening people and doing extortion types of things, you need a little bit more than an executive order. So I want to remind the people, I want to remind our community that it's really important that you stay vigilant and diligent in paying attention to what is going on in your local community. And I know it can be frustrating because there's so much going on so fast, so furious with regards to all of these things that are taking place on the national level. However, even if you don't like what's taking place on a national level, get good at working on your local level. Get good at identifying the right type of people to serve in those positions. Because what I noticed at the school board meeting is they weren't overly concerned about policy. And my message to them is, when you do not have policy on your side, you make everything political. And that's what we saw. We, of course, would like to see DEI stay in effect. There's a lot of different programs out there that are helpful to students, whether they're students with disabilities or whether they're students with second language learning. Those are beneficial, whether they're the global studies or the IB programs or any of those different programs. We want to make sure that the policies that we have in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility stay in effect. Because as someone who grew up in the 50s, when we were younger, because one of the things that we kept hearing, one of the things we kept hearing was indoctrination. We don't want DEI because you're indoctrinating our children. And you probably grew up in the 50s too. We had nothing but indoctrination. Uh-oh. They lied about Black people and gave us misinformation about what we had done, what we had achieved. They lied about Africa. They insisted that the Africans were not civilized. And so they indoctrinated us with all of these things. If you grew up in the Commonwealth of Virginia, they indoctrinated you with Captain John Smith and Pocahontas, and they put that in the books and they've read that to you year after year after year. And indoctrination is what this nation does. That is what this nation does. So for them to suggest that to teach people accurate information, teach people factual information is indoctrination, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Because if I'm teaching you accurate information, if I'm teaching you true information, that's not indoctrination, because see, now you have the ability to be able to review all of that and come to your own conclusions. With indoctrination of false information, then you don't really have anywhere to go, because everything that you've been fed is indoctrination. So with that being said, we are coming to the close of the show. We're getting there.
Mhm.
And we want to be diligent in making sure that our tax dollars are spent properly. We want to make sure that if we're giving our money to a government entity, that those monies for our children, for our grandchildren, our babies, we want to make sure that money is being used properly. Because, of course, as a young person, we had misinformation galore. We had whitewashed information. We had all types of misinformation when we were children. The colonization of this country, where the settlers came in and decided to take it over. That's not how they explain it. They say there was these people. They were savages. But they don't tell you that they were the people that came in to steal someone else's property. They don't say that in the books. They say that the people who were already here were the savages. So in closing, again, we are very, very far away from one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are still in a mindset of extortion, exploitations, terrorism in this nation. And so, again, when you do not have policy on your side, you make everything political. So we're going to have to change that. I am Georgia F. Allen with GA for Justice, coming to you each and every Thursday. They are trying to trick people with the verbiage. Yes, they are. Each and every Thursday at 12 noon. And we will see you next week. A developer should not meddle in local politics at all, in my opinion. I agree, Bernita. They should keep their hands out of politics, because they're only supposed to have one vote like the rest of us. We don't want them buying up the votes. So with that being said, see you next week.
All righty then. What a great topic. And as usual, you always do your thing, representing the community and the city of Virginia Beach. And I give you a round of applause.
Thank you.
You was all over the place this week, from city council to the school board.
Yep. And we don't want people to be silently watching. We want them engaged and on the battlefield, because we are in war.
Yeah. So, it's important. And really, like I said, I really appreciate you taking on this. One more. You got one more comment up there.
Yeah. Hey, Sugar Ray, I appreciate the talk and look forward to these special talks each and every week. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate them.
Yeah. So it's important for people to chime in and, acknowledge, the work you do, and, and also leave a comment. Most time I overlook. I didn't see it until I looked over at the links. But it's important because, we have a few minutes to end the show. It's important for people to know that this is mostly volunteer work, and it's important for them to know that they need to share the links, because it's work and research that you do all on your own time. And I think some people is gotten to the syndrome of the slave master. We're supposed to work free. No matter how much work you put in, you're supposed to do it free. And like what I do is I'm not working for the young people. They can't afford to pay me. But any contribution or thumbs up or reading or sharing the information is important. And I know a lot of people may not have the money to do anything. But when you look at something, we are indoctrinated with one specific thing when it comes to our community. We're supposed to do it free, but we'll pay everybody else.
Absolutely.
And that's not fair to
That's
you
not right.
or anyone. So that's why I wanted to take time to mention that, because it's not that we are begging. It's just that we should not have to put people in a position of taking hours. You don't do this in 15 minutes. You don't go research something in 15 minutes. It all takes time. And, at my state, I look at it, what I can't afford to pay you right now, but you volunteered. And that requires for me to pay you, as they say, give a person their flowers while they're living. So I could pay you right now because I appreciate what you do for the community.
Well, I appreciate you opening up the airwaves, because I could not get this information out to our people. So it is a partnership.
Right. No question. But I need for the people that's also watching to know that, to travel back and forth to these meetings, you have to have gas.
Correct.
Any little slight, as they call it in college, I'm gonna give you a stipend.
Right.
So it's not begging, it's to encourage and keep a person focused on the mission.
Correct.
So that's why I say what I do. I mean, for you, what you do, because you didn't have to take the position of doing it, and I appreciate you doing all that research and the work.
I'm enjoying it. I will tell you that.
But somewhere along the way, things will change. So thank you so much. And once again, it was a great topic and a great and exciting show. And don't forget to share this, make comments. After all, some thumbs up. It helps the algorithms of the show so that people and Facebook and all the other platforms we're on to know that people are watching and listening. On behalf of GA for Justice and Miss Georgia Allen, the community activist, thank you so much. And once again,